For the longest time, I thought that I had a motivation problem, but it turns out what I actually had was a staying problem. And in my last video, if you had a chance to watch, I talked about why we freeze when things start to matter. So when we finally have decided we're ready, we're going to act, and we take that first step, but before actually moving forward, we freeze. That's covered in my last video. If you're interested in that, please take a moment to watch. If you've made it past that video and you're here with me today, we're talking about what happens after we act and learning the skill of staying just a little bit longer. I'm Sonia, and I am actively learning to act before I'm ready and to stay when things get uncomfortable. And if you're on this journey too, welcome. I hope that you find this content relatable and it helps you in some capacity. So, when we have a new idea or we want to do something we haven't done before, start a new habit, we have to go through a number of steps to kind of break that cycle and move forward. So, step one is deciding that we're ready. Step two is taking action towards that. And then step three is what we're going to talk about a little bit here, which is staying when things get uncomfortable. And I've talked about motivation and the cycle of what it takes to move forward in previous videos before. And, everyone always is waiting to be motivated to change, motivated to move forward, but action actually comes first. So you have to take action. Based on that action, you get a result. And based on that result, you have the motivation to keep moving forward. And that cycle is very accurate and it works well, but it works best when you get a positive result from the action. So when things go well, where you might need to develop the skill of staying a little bit longer is when you're not immediately getting the outcome that you're looking for, or when the little voice in your head telling you it's not worth it, this isn't safe, it's time to either ignore doing this or decide that it wasn't the right decision, you need to learn to stay. The best example I can think of when it comes to this topic is health and fitness. It's relatable, of course, to a lot of people. When you go to start a health journey, you may have done some research, found a gym, found a trainer, signed up for classes, perfect. And you go to your first few classes, and there could be an option where, you get results immediately, you don't get sore, and things feel amazing. But what more realistically might happen is the classes are harder than you expected, you're not getting the results you were looking for quite as quickly as you thought you would, or you just have a really uncomfortable day and you're stressed and it just doesn't feel worth it. So you give up. Does that sound familiar? I know I faced that challenge numerous times when I was on my own health and fitness journey. And that was, I think, the first major time that I had to learn to stay. So you hear people talk about it all the time, trust the process, and they talk about the importance of consistency. And consistency is the skill of showing up even when you're not getting the results you're looking for, or even when the results aren't immediate. But if you're consistent and you keep showing up and you keep doing the work, you will get the results that you're looking for. And that's related to staying. So even if you started your journey and the weight isn't dropping as quickly as you wanted it to or expected it to, or you're not getting as strong as you would have liked, or your clothes just aren't fitting as loosely or as nicely as you wanted them to at this moment in time, you have to learn to stay. It's uncomfortable. The result isn't there, but you work past that hump. And if you push past that discomfort, you're going to unlock the next level. And this also applies to if you wanted to start posting content, for example, and you might get that energy and that momentum and you post, and then you realize, oh, I only got one like, oh, or no one commented, or things are just a little bit busy and I'm not getting the results that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to give up. But if you look at all of the people that have done it and done it successfully, what they learn to do very well is stay. Even if they're not getting the likes or the comments or the traction that they wanted, they kept going and they kept posting and they kept pushing past that. And maybe at that same time, they were pivoting their strategy or their approach or how they were doing things, but they didn't stop. So it got uncomfortable. The negative voices start showing up, but you push past that. I mean, this also applies in relationships. If you're communicating something you haven't before, or you're vulnerable, or you're dealing with someone that maybe shuts down or doesn't like to communicate their emotions or their experiences, and you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, sometimes it's a matter of being able to stay and pause. And it's like, they might not be responding to me immediately or the way I'd like them to, but that doesn't mean they're not going to. So if I just take a deep breath and stay a little bit longer, then maybe you'll achieve or see a different outcome or path forward. And I think there are some tangible steps that you can take when you're navigating this journey. The first is to try to become aware of where you usually quit. And we often have certain triggers, and it's, I'm not going to say easy, but it's a lot easier to follow a new habit or a new plan when things are going well. It's often when other stressors come in and our capacity is pulled in multiple directions that this gets a little bit harder. But it's pausing when you hear that little negative voice come in long enough to wonder, is this real, or is this my fear or discomfort speaking? And I'll say, even with this video, I experienced that. I had a very busy day, I had a lot on my plate, but I promised myself I was going to hit record and film this video. I had to start, stop quite a few times before I got to the point where I was actually ready to sit down and record. And I sat with that because at this point, I know my triggers, I know what comes up before I move forward with something, and I'm able to sit with that a little bit longer. The second one is to learn to break things down a bit. So if you really do have a lot of resistance, and I don't know, you said to yourself, I'm going to send 10 messages today as a part of the project I'm working on, or as a part of outreach, or to connect with a new network, send one. If that even feels too much, draft the message. It really does come down to chunking things down and reducing the pressure that you put on yourself to perform in the exact way that you defined. I think when they say give yourself grace, sometimes that's misunderstood as kind of being too soft, or um, not giving yourself enough push to move forward. But we also have to understand that if we're doing something we've never done before, we have to slowly expand our comfort zone, and we can't go from A to Z immediately. So if we realize that Z is just too much and maybe we've bitten off a bit more than we can chew, then what's the immediate next step? And then from there, what's the immediate next step? And as you start to stay within that and even start to accumulate these little staying points and trust points, it's going to get easier. So you might have gone A to B, B to C, C to D, and then next thing you go D to F, F to H, H to S. So you can make bigger jumps after you've already put in the reps. And yeah, just breathe through it. I think that's the last one. Let yourself breathe through it. Let yourself get frustrated. Let it feel a little bit hard, but don't let the feeling of it being hard or unknown or uncomfortable stop you. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, don't let the discomfort stop you. Stay in it a little bit longer. And from there, chunk it down to the tiniest step that you can take, because oftentimes when you take that tiny step, the next one feels much more comfortable and much more natural. If you enjoyed this video, I'm glad. If you gained something from it, please leave something in the comments. And I'm excited to continue this journey with you. I know it's hard and I know it takes a lot of effort, but just know you're not alone. There are other people that are doing it at the same time.